Hi, everyone. I wanted to talk to you about your flat dictionary midterm assignment. Just a couple of notes. In this assignment, you are going to be doing traditional flats. So when I mean a traditional flat, remember you're going to be using a balanced croquis of your choice. And so it's symmetrical. Okay, so you want to have it be a balanced croquis of your choice, have it be a frontal view and symmetrical. This helps you keep the scale the same. It is important when you do this to think about scale. Don't do a giant pair of pants or two shirts on the same page that are different scales. So pick a scale and stick with that scale. Okay. Now you are going to be doing a series of drawings. It can be, you're going to be doing collars, some necklines, shirts, jackets, pants, skirts, dresses, and then other. Other can be accessories if you want. It could be undergarments if you want. It can be design details. And that's where we do a design detail. You can kind of blow it up and kind of zero in on something. So for instance, maybe it is a denim pocket with stitching on it, or a frog closure or a bit of lace or something like that. So some sort of design detail. So the design details are kind of the exception. You can blow them up and it gives you a chance to have some freedom to do whatever you would like to do. Now, I want you to do this project in PowerPoint and treat each page as if it is a separate page in a book. Okay, so think about your layout and different layout techniques. How can you do this to make it look pleasing? Are you going to do a grid, etc.? Okay. Now, you can, for the necklines and the collars, rather than drawing an entire shirt, you can blow up a section. So for instance, create a frame or a circle and then look at just the collar and not necessarily do the entire shirt if you would like to. Okay, but when I say blow up, do think of scale. Don't do a giant collar and then do a smaller shirt on the same page. Okay, so keep the scale consistent, particularly when they're on the same page. That's really important. Okay, so just a little recap. You're going to be doing this completely in black and white, no color. You're going to be using a balanced forward-facing croquis of your choice. You are going to be doing the asked for items, and this is a dictionary. So again, we want to try to give things names if we know what they are. Definitely think about your layout. Doing it as a PowerPoint is definitely helpful, or some other slide program if you prefer, like Keynote or Google Slides, etc. Treat that page as if it's a layout. So if I'm doing a section, for instance, on shirt collars or collars, then maybe I put all of my collars on the same page. Or if I decide to do, you know, 2 on a page, that's fine also. But think about how I'm laying it out. Be consistent with your scale, and using a croquis really helps us keep the same scale. You don't want to like all of a sudden get bigger or smaller. Okay. All right. So let's look at a couple different ways that you can kind of tackle this project. So sometimes students like to do just a straight up dictionary. So let's take a look. I'm going to share my screen for a second. Hold on one second. Okay, so I like to look at Pinterest. You can look at Google and you can look up different types of necklines, for example. Okay, so here are types of necklines and collars. So what is the difference between a neckline and a collar? I have 2 different sections. One is collars and one is necklines. With a collar, you're going to have, you know, a piece that kind of goes over. I would say this is a collar, this is a neckline, this is a neckline, this is a collar. This is probably, could go in either, I guess. Okay, so it has the name. So if you're seeing this little fold over piece, that's where I would say it's a collar. So here is a cape collar neckline. Okay, they're combining the 2 terms. Here is a wing collar. Here is a small collar. Here is a drape collar. You can use these as inspiration. Now, I don't want you to trace them. Okay, and notice you do not want to have necklines. You do not want to have arms. This is just the collar. So if I was going to draw this as a flat, I would just be drawing everything except for the neck and the chin. I would, you know, be doing a frontal view of it, etc. And again, no color. But you can see, I can see the different names here. So these are vintage ones. Looks like they're probably from the 40s or 50s here. Here is another one. So here's some traditional ones. Okay, so again, here we're seeing a square, and it's focusing on the collars here. Okay, so if I was going to draw these as flats, I'm going to draw them myself. Don't trace them from, you know, the picture off the internet. Try to draw it yourself, and you're going to omit again the neck and the collar and the collarbone. You're just going to be drawing the shirt. Okay, so or the collar in this case. And do you see how we have a little square where we're zeroing in? So you don't have to draw the entire shirt unless you're working on your shirt section. Okay, so collars and necklines are very similar. You can zero in. Remember to not include the actual body parts. No neck, no chin. All right, so again, if I want to, I can give them, look up shirts for our next section, and we can put in shirt styles. Shirt styles. Okay, and let's see if we can find you can do this in Google too. So I'm seeing a lot of different shirt styles with, let's see, names. Okay, here's one. And you could draw them from photographs. Like if you wanted to do this one, you could do that. But let's see, here we have a bunch of shirt styles. Again, I can use this as inspiration. And we have an Oxford, we have a rolled sleeve, we have a Western, we have a knot front. Now, again, I'm going to be drawing the entire shirt as a flat, no body parts, but I want to give the items a name. Okay. Here's another one. Now, this kind of looks like a flat, right? I have a little body part here, but remember we want to draw the back of the necklines if they're a true flat. So don't forget that part. Okay, so we're kind of going back to some of the things that we learned earlier. We don't want to color them, but this helps us get names and inspiration for the names of the shirts. Let's take a look at, we're going to do some pants and skirts. So here's one for pants. And they have all kinds of different ones. Here's another one. We have pants and cargo and things. So the idea is that we are practicing doing our flat sketches, and we're also learning what makes some of these styles what they are, okay? By giving them a name. And here's some skirt styles. Okay, if you have the textbook, which, you know, it's totally fine if you don't, but if you have the textbook, they have this in the textbook as well. Okay, if you don't have the textbook, you can do this by using, you know, Google or Pinterest or other search engines as well. So here we have the Batu, off the shoulder jewel. Again, you can use this as inspiration, but when you draw it as a flat, no body parts. Okay, so those are necklines, skirts. We're going to do dresses as well and pants. And so here, oh, here we have Oscar styles. Okay, Oscar dresses. So here's a bunch of different Oscar dresses. Now this is interesting because you can do the dictionary where we're giving things, the styles, a name. But if you want to do a more vintage inspired one, you can. So in this case, we're seeing, you know, it organized by Oscar dresses and the actresses that wore them and the designers who designed them if they're known. So that's an option. Or if you wanted to, you could focus on different like 1950s dress styles. Let's see if we can get some. Let's say you're interested in a time period. And let's see if we have dress styles with the names. Okay, so here we're seeing some just straight up dressed silhouettes. And sometimes you'll find them associated with a time period. You can get sometimes if you really want to do that. Let's see. Oops. Okay, so you can look up patterns sometimes and you can get some really great styles, as well as sometimes designers, etc. So now this is something that's drawn. This is something that's drawn. You can say that this is a style. It says 1939 on it. 1939 dress. Okay. If you are looking at a designer's work, you can name the designer and say dress. If you happen to know a little bit about it, you know, here we have a sweetheart neckline, you can write it down. You can do 1950s ball gown, but I'd like you to give it a name. The name be, you know, something that is an actual term, like asymmetrical, like for this one, asymmetrical wrapped neckline, or whether or not it's you're giving the designer or you're giving it a year, etc. So try to give some information about what you're doing, okay? So if I wanted to, I could also focus on different decades. I could focus on different designers. So Christian Dior wedding dresses. So maybe I want to look at different Christian Dior. Here's my top 10 Christian Dior from the 1950s. Okay, so maybe you use that as inspiration. Remember, we're doing it as a flat. And I could say this is, you know, Christian Dior from 1950 and it's a ball gown. Okay, I could say that it is a strapless ball gown if I could know that. Okay, so I'll let you pick how you want to do it. But again, we want it to be a collection of images, either with specific names, the design details, or the designers, etc. Okay, so you can organize it different ways if you want to. All right, so email me if you have any questions or send me a message through Canvas Messenger. I hope that helps you make sense. Again, black and white, no color. Keep the scale the same, and different ways that you can organize it as far as your inspiration, but do put it into a PowerPoint. Also, so if we want to talk about design details, we can look up accessories, accessory types. So you didn't spell accessories right. So here we have, for instance, I want to use clothing accessories. We have different types of bags. Okay, so maybe you want to do accessories from bags. You could include shoes. You can include hats. There's a bunch of bags with their different names. Now, again, with these accessories, you're not going to use a croquis because you're not putting these on the body specifically, but do try to keep them within the scale. Hats, again, we want to draw it without the head. Okay, but different types of hats if you wanted to, with their names, berets, fascinators, shoes. You could do jewelry. You could do blow up design details. Let's see if we can find something with design details. Clothing, design details. Jewelry can go into this category. So design details. Here's something that you can use for design detail. Okay, those are some cuffs, button cuffs that have some pleats in them. You know, you could focus on a bow, you could focus on that collar. These are some very interesting collars. A brooch, a sleeve, a waistline, any of those things where we're kind of zeroing in on something. If it's on the body, you can use a croquis if it's helpful, or in some cases, you know, if you're doing a jean pocket or something, or these are really beautiful, this closure with the lace on it. You know, you can just zero in on it specifically, okay? So if it makes sense to use a croquis, go ahead and use it. If it doesn't make sense to use a croquis, you can just kind of freehand it if you would like. And you can make this section a little bit larger, but try to keep things that are similar scale on similar on the same page. Okay, so don't put them, jumble them in with your shirts. Okay, And that is it. Let me know if you have any questions.